Give us an example of what you've used to change these tools.
One of my favorites is the angel of death. This is a Toltec tradition, the angel of death. It's in a lot of traditions in different ways. Mm-hmm. In the tradition of the Toltecs, the angel of death owns everything. Everything we have is owned by the angel of death. And she loans it to us to use, and then she takes it back whenever she wants it back. And we have no control of it. You cannot bargain with the angel of death. You cannot make deals. You cannot beg and plead. She just takes it back when she's ready. So she loans us our youth and our nice clear skin when we're young, and our relationships and our automobiles, and every little thing on the shelves in our house, and they come and go. One day we say, "Oh, I want this," and we put it on a bookshelf, and another day it's stolen, or we break it, or we decide we don't want it anymore. It goes back to the angel of death. So the magic of the angel of death is that we have a choice to either surrender to the angel of death and have gratitude for what she's loaned us, and live in gratitude for all the gifts, for our clothing and our house and our friends and our lovers, and even as our lover is leaving us, we see, oh, the angel of death is taking him back. So I can have grief over that loss, but at the same time I'm holding gratitude for the loan and for the gift, rather than, oh my God, this isn't fair, I hate this, it's, and being victims. Because when we're victims, we're in fear. So we have a choice of being in gratitude, which is love for the loan, or fear that we're going to lose the gifts. And so the angel of death, who walks right behind us over our left shoulder, putting in things and taking out things, can be a beautiful guide to us in our lives. And the magic is that when we do surrender and we say, okay, I agree, it's all yours, I am grateful for the loans, I'll enjoy what you give me while it's here, a relationship, an automobile, a home, a little thing on the shelf, a pet, and I surrender the outcome to you. I live in surrender to the outcome to you. When that happens, we quit being afraid of the future. What's going to happen to this? Oh my God, I'm going to lose. I got to get it right for this person so they won't leave me. We come back to the present moment, and the present moment of gratitude and love is where life is actually happening, the only place life is actually happening. And when we do that, the angel of death turns into the angel of life.
Well, let's clarify. Let's clarify for those who are listening who are saying, okay, it's okay to grieve if there's negativity, or if there's loss, or a departure of a beloved. It's okay to grieve, yet there's no judgment on that. It's an experience. You're merely having an experience, and it's okay to allow that experience to happen and to witness it, and to know that it's an impermanence to that.
Yeah, I just did that this week, and wow, just.
What did you do this week?
This week I had an experience like you're talking about, where grief just.
Would you like to share that?
Poured through me. Sure.
Please.
My cat died. This is not only a companion for 19 years, but a real fixture in the Toltec world. Somebody called me and said, oh my God, every time we were meeting at your house, and having potlucks and groups and meetings for all these long years, Annie, Joy Dancer, the cat, had been part of it. She wasn't one of those cute little fluffy cats that comes around and gets on your lap and purrs and you think that's nice. She was crabby, she was bossy, she had such personality, she had a lot of wildness in her. She lived outside, she was outside a lot. She wasn't like a pampered little house cat. But boy, she had her rules. She's the reason people say dogs have masters and cats have servants, because she had her routines and her schedules, and she was really bossy. And if you were sitting petting her and talking to somebody, and then you quit paying attention and you weren't present, she'd turn around and go, and say, hey, you either focus on me and actually relate to me, or don't do it, don't touch me. She was a Toltec. She was like so present and so on top of her game. And we all just loved her. And she would, if she was hungry and I was on a Skype conference with an apprentice somewhere, and she'd start walking across the keyboard, saying, "Hey, what about me?" She was just so, and people would just love her and ask about her, and she was just a fixture in my life and the Toltec world. And she got sick and was going downhill and wasn't in pain, so I decided to let her die at home. And it took about 4 or 5 days where she quit eating and quit drinking and deteriorated and just went down and down and down and was just pretty much comatose a lot of times. But if I came in the room and said hi to her, she'd raise her head and then lay back down again. And last Monday I was teaching in the evening and then I went to sleep. She was okay. She was barely there. I mean, barely breathing. I went to sleep. When I woke up, she was gone. And I just went about my routines. I said, okay, I knew this was coming. I'm okay. And I went in and I was making my toast and tea for the morning, and just doing my routine. And the box of tea, it wouldn't open right. It just got caught. And I got furious. I tore the lid off the box. And when that anger unleashed, and when the anger of the cap of my feelings was released by my anger, the deep grief just poured out of me, And I was walking around in the house and in the garden just angry, heaving with sobs, the loss, the grief, the celebration of her for all these years and the companionship. Oh my God, it was so intense. And I even walked by a mirror and saw my face and wouldn't look at it because I said, if I look at that face, it's going to take this away from me, because it was so it was beautiful. My face was beautiful, but it was just, tears streaming and just, oh God, so real, so amazingly real.
So you were feeling your pain and feeling your agony of the loss, and in that you also were mindful that it was a beautiful journey. You were in celebration of that journey. You were in reverence to that journey, and you saw it as an experience.
Without thinking about it.
Without thinking
In
about it.
that moment I wasn't thinking those thoughts, but it's become the nature of how I do life, and so that was the experience, yeah. And it lasted maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I came in and I went to her. I'd seen that she was gone, but I hadn't done anything yet. So I wrapped her in a towel and I put her on my couch. I wrapped her in a beautiful Peruvian weaving, a manta, and I laid her on the couch and put a candle there and a flower. And I actually left her there for a couple of days and buried her on Wednesday in the backyard. And we made a little headstone and drew a little cross and wrote Annie Joy Dancer. Joy Dancer being my website, and then a friend of mine wrote and said, I have a suggestion. Beautiful shamanic friend. He said, leave her bowl full of water down there on the floor where she usually ate and drank, and float a flower in it. And I did that, and it was just so sweet to walk by and see that. And it was a big dahlia. And one day, the second time, and it's only a few days here, but it seems like a long time, I saw the flower had been in the water long enough that the center had dropped out of it, and the petals had floated away from that center. You were talking about the heart center and stuff earlier, and here was this heart center of this being, and my relationship with her had dropped out into the water, which metaphysically is often the ocean, this water is emotions. And it had dropped out, and the petals are floating out away from that, just like her spirit was floating back into the oneness, And I said, that's done. And I haven't gone back to that place of grief. I have felt her, I can't even say I've been sad. The actual releasing of that grieving, not the, oh, poor me, now I'm alone, I should have taken better care of her, I should have bought her great food. 19 years she lived. That's suffering. That's why me, this poor me, this I'm a victim. That's suffering. That's not grieving. Grieving is, grieving takes us from I had a cat to I don't have a cat.
Well, when you do this sound, pow, am I interpreting that that is the fullness of you feeling what you were experiencing?
Yes.
And in that feeling of what you're experiencing, you're giving celebration to witnessing
Yes.
what is actually happening.
Yes.
Where there's something amiss that people lose this. They could go into the story for a long, long time, and years will pass, and they're still in the loss of the story. As you said, I should have taken better care of my cat. I should have done this. I should have bought more food. I should have been better. That is the story. So when you lose yourself in the story, that henceforth is the judgment of what's going on. So it's basically, if people really can understand what we're talking about on the finest fundamental level, they would see that, my God, what a beautiful, beautiful journey this life is.
Yes.
And how we make it so complicated unnecessarily.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's so simple to change from a life of fear to a life of love and gratitude. It's that simple. In one moment, you could do that, except for all the garbage that's working against us, all the beliefs. Like the belief that we shouldn't cry, we should tough it up, we should, be strong. If that agreement is strong enough, and your cat dies, or your husband leaves, or you have, somebody dies in a crash or whatever, if that agreement is strong enough, you will not experience your grief. You may go into the suffering of stories and why me, and I should have done differently, but you won't release it through grief. And so by cleaning those agreements and saying, wait a minute, to Jaguar says, wait a minute, who said we shouldn't cry? Who said we shouldn't cry? Well, our parents did. They sent us to our room. They said they were going to make us cry more. They give us something to cry about. Is it all true? And then we have to really look at that and say, wait a minute, that's not true. I have sadness, it wells up. Isn't Spirit wanting me to experience it and having it come all the way out and discharge it and get it over with? And that was the blessed gift that I had, was I didn't have a lot of that interference. It lasted for 10 minutes, but this little bit of anger, which I wouldn't have had if it hadn't been for this other stuff wanting to come out. I don't normally get up and rip tea boxes in anger because they don't open easily. But that anger was like the cap on everything else. When I released it, when I just felt that, a little irritation, then it could all come out. And I have my conscious relationship circle every week here, and so my teaching on Wednesday night was about the anger, the cap, and how we can use that anger to release all the other stuff. Because if they got angry at us for crying, we had to repress the crying, but we got angry at them for being angry at us. So we had to push our own anger down. And then we got angry at ourselves for pushing our anger down. And so the anger seems to be like the cap, like on a volcano, and it starts rumbling. And then we go, I shouldn't cry, I shouldn't have emotions. And we push it down even farther. More anger. But if we can find ways to release that anger physically, with a plastic baseball bat, whatever it takes, all this other stuff just pours out.
And welcome all of this.
And welcome it all and say, this is life. This is life moving in me.
Yes.
So it was an amazing experience to see myself thinking I was holding it back, or could, or should, or whatever. But it's so close to the surface that one little thing, it came out. And I thought I would do a week of the bowl and a candle. I had a Virgin of Guadalupe candle burning in my living room for her. And I emptied the bowl, and then this morning before I left the house, I looked at the candle and I said, I'm done.